Hey, thank you for tuning in to Searching for the Sacred, where I'm going to help you find the divine one breath at a time. This morning, I want to answer another question that came from you. Is there a God? Is there a God? I mean, this is a really big question to answer. Is there a God? But it has some really simple answers, actually. Stay with me in this episode. Is there a God? This is a foundational question for all people of all time. For the majority of human history, the overwhelming answer to this question has been yes. Though there have been strong disagreements about whether it's a capital G God or small g God or gods plural or whether gods exist or not. There's support from archaeology, science, history, literature, and just human experience that all point to there being a personal God. Naturally, some point to evidence in those fields that would attack the idea of God's existence, and yet the balance of human experience, science, philosophy seems to indicate that there is a personal God that really does exist, which much of what we assume is part of daily life, including reason, morality, human rights, can't exist unless there is a personal creator God. Everything is way too complex and all works together way too well in the whole universe for there not to be a personal creator God that's helping sustain the whole thing, not just create it. I mean, obviously the Bible, the biblical scriptures point to there being a God in nature, shows that there's a creator, like Psalm 19 verse 1, and that God reveals himself, enough of himself to the world through creation, like Romans chapter 1 verse 20, that we are accountable then if there really is this one true God that's revealed himself in creation. The early Christian church was founded on the use of eyewitnesses and evidence and good reasoning from Luke chapter 1, 2 Peter chapter 1, Acts chapter 17, 1 Corinthians chapter 14, to name a few. And even Jesus himself appealed to evidence when defending his claims that he was actually God. There's ample reason to believe that there's a God. The real question is whether or not you're open to the evidence. The real question is whether you are open to exploring whether there's really a God or not, or are you already closed-minded? I mean, really smart people throughout history have followed Jesus and believe that there's a personal God. And there's been a whole host of smart people in history who have used evidence, they think, to prove that there isn't a God. Ultimately, it's how the person approaches this question to begin with and whether they're going to come to an answer that makes sense with the evidence. Because there is historical, scientific, personal evidence are all meaningless to a person who's already closed off the idea that there's a God. And many people reject God because of the difficult personal experiences that they've had in their life. I understand. I've gone through personal hardship in my own life. I've gone through suffering. But that shouldn't lead me to conclude that there isn't a God. But they end up blaming God for all these things happening to them. Well, imagine a person refusing to believe in Abraham Lincoln unless Lincoln posted a YouTube video calling them by name today. Or a girl who refuses to believe that someone loves her despite letters sent to her, gifts sent to her, conversations said with her, and she demands that the person buy her a new car and it shows up in the driveway to demonstrate their love. Well, those things would be ridiculous. Those aren't reasonable requests. And the person making them is really saying, I don't really want to believe to begin with. These kinds of people are not really searching for the sacred. They're just going to reject the evidence no matter what it is. Even if a miracle happens, they're not going to believe in the one true God. They're not going to believe that God exists. If you wonder if God exists, seek him. Call him out by name. Look for the evidence of creation around you. A sunrise, a sunset, a beautiful ocean, a high mountaintop. Those are all indications from the Bible that God exists. Look to the person of Jesus. Be open-minded. You might be surprised at what you find, namely a personal, loving, compassionate, grace-filled God who wants a personal relationship with you. Man, it is really fun when you start to be open-minded to exploring if God exists, because you might be blown away at how personal it really gets. I hope this has been helpful for you. Be sure to check out all the notes below in this YouTube channel and on my blog for further reflection. I'd love for your comments to create some discussion and feedback, and as always, I love your topics for the journey. Please share with someone who might need to hear and experience this video as well. Keep searching for the sacred.